Hey everybody, this is Renee. Kind of wanted to show you here. This is a wing that I've been working on. Actually, this is a wing plug, so this is something I'm going to use to make a wing mold for my U-2. And so what I've done is, first I built up the wing. This is a coat of primer that I laid down. It's actually Duratec primer. It's a pretty hard primer that you can wet sand down and polish out to get a real fine finish. It's super hard though, so I wanted to got to the point where I wanted to lay down some panel lines and some rivets. Did a test piece, and I found that I couldn't use the soldering iron to put rivets down like a lot of other people do. So I was sort of stuck, and even the panel line tape didn't work very well. So I laid down a test piece, and actually tried using a Dremel and a scribing tool, and that seemed to work really well and gave me nice clean edges. So that's kind of the way I decided to go on this. So I know a lot of folks use panel line tape, but yeah, in this case I couldn't use it. So this is kind of the I'm not knocking that. This is just the only way that really worked for this material. So that's the way I've gone for this. I've gotten a few questions just how I do this. So first of all, I made some tools. First one is actually the riveting tool itself. This is just a steel applicator tip that I took off of a little glue applicator, soldered it to some brass tubing so I could chuck it up in my Dremel. That works really well. It's a pretty small diameter. I can't remember I think it's 18 gauge tip. Then I made a couple of templates. These are just from cheap plastic rulers, and I like these a lot because they're pretty flexible. I've got some stiffer material too that I use for. Let me go get that one. Here's some stiffer plastic that I use to get into tighter corners, and you can make all sorts of different shapes. I put sticky back tape on all these to give the ruler it seems to work best if you have it sitting up just off the model a little ways, because you start getting dust collecting, and this helps give me a nice clean rivet shape. I scribed in guidelines, so just like I've got guidelines here for panel lines, so I can keep these at the right distance away. I did the same thing here actually, but I used the existing black lines on the ruler, so now I have a right hand and a left hand set. But this works well. These are cheap. I got these for about 98 cents. I bought a couple of them. Work really well. Being that cheap, I didn't feel so bad cutting them up. So then I used a soft pencil. This is a 6B. You can tell I've gotten money's worth out of this one. To actually lay down lines, guidelines in pencil, so I could use these to follow them. I use my, I've got an assortment of rulers. I like using this because of the different grid patterns I can use to follow. So this works well, plus it's flexible. You can find these any art supply store. Against as a Westcott ruler. I've been giving them a lot of money lately. But it's worked well. I've made little templates for things like this, and I even made a template. And actually, another good piece of or source of cheap plastic are those exit signs and for sale signs that you see at Home Depot or Lowe's. You just buy those for less than $1. You can cut them up in different shapes. Let's see if I can find one here. This is kind of my bin. The signs I'm talking about are like these guys. So it's just a source of good cheap plastic. I got this one that I made, and I labeled it flap aileron ribs, and I just do that. I can start laying these out. I'm not constantly having to measure. This wing is for my U-2, so it's got the speed brakes, and I actually made a speed brake template This worked really well. Helped me align them, right to left, and it also helped me maintain an even shape. So these work well. Made all sorts of templates. Here's one for a little access door that I made from a little bit thicker plastic. But anyway, talking about rivets, so let me go ahead and get started on one. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit so that you can see a little better. And you can kind of make out the panel or the pencil line that I've laid down. I've laid down a couple of lines here, one right here, one right here. I've started on a set of rivets here, and I'm going to continue on up here. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's fire up the Dremel. I use the lowest setting. It seems to work best. Just the lowest setting. I like this Dremel because it's nice and light. It's easy to handle. It's got this grippy part. I love this tool. No one's paying me to say that either. It's a great tool. I saw somebody else using it and fell in love with it. Picked up one for myself. Now to do these, I need to make sure my tool is perpendicular to the surface, straight up and down. It can't be coming in at an angle, otherwise I'm going to dig up material or chip it out. And I'm not pushing down on these. I'm really just letting the tool pressure. I'm really just guiding it more than anything. Letting the tool do the work, or the weight of the tool. And I'm just looking to make sure my rivets are all nice and aligned. Here we go. Blow out the tip. I blow out the tip every 4, 5, 6 rivets just to make sure it's nice and clean. Clogs can kind of mess up the way the rivets look. One last check. Here we go. Let's check our work. Wipe away the dust. Let me turn this off. And there you go. Got a nice little row of rivets there. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see them a little better. They came out pretty good. This material that I'm using is this Duratech is pretty hard. It polishes out real nice, really good for tool making, but it's tough to work on. I tried doing the soldering iron and brass tube trick, and that didn't work. Actually, didn't even phase this stuff. So really was sort of up a creek for a bit on how to put down rivets and even panel lines. So, and the scribers that I used. Actually, these guys here, and this is the borrowed this from the plastic model guys. This is just a Tamiya panel line scriber. Just laid down actually a metal ruler works best for this, and then just lightly just do a couple of strokes, get these panel lines going. I actually use this one for these longer lines in this wing because I can kind of butt this edge up against the end of a ruler. For more curvy surfaces like the fuselage and canopy and things like that, I picked this up at Home Depot, I think, for about $5. This works really, really well. It's a carbide tip scriber. I think Empire makes them. They've got 2 versions. This version's, I don't know what the difference is. They both just look like scribers. This one's got, I like this one because it's got a textured body and a textured grip here, so it works really well. I made a circle template, or I didn't actually make it. I bought circle templates, and I was able to make these guys here pretty easy with this. So these work pretty well. Anyway, let me know if you have any questions. And this is how we put down rivets on Duratech.